Hi, it's Crystal with EverydayFoodStorage.net, and I'm back with Bob from the Bosch Kitchen Center, or www.mykitchencenter.com. And what he's going to do today is go over the glories of the Nutrimill, which is a fabulous wheat grinder, which I definitely suggest having if you're grinding wheat all the time, which you will once you see how easy it is from Bob.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. This is a Nutrimill, and we decided we'd open a box because there's some things packed in there you ought to know a little more about. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. We're going to lift the grain mill right out of there. Okay, you got some directions inside. We're going to pull the mill out of here. Thank you, Crystal. And inside the flour pan, take this off like so, and inside here is a ring. And we're going to lift that out. Just grab the bottom side and lift it up and it comes out. And this then with the three little tabs there, there, and there, and here, we'll just snap that down in, and down in, and down in, and it's on.
So whatever you do, don't leave it in the bowl or you'll have a big mess when you try and get your flour out every time.
And then you've got with the lid a piece here called a cyclo cup. And if you bend it, kind of the cyclo cup comes off, and then on the top you have a filter. So these two pieces together act as a separator. So when the milling heads blow all the flour through this opening into this sealed container via this gasket, the air has to be able to escape. And if you were to drill a hole right here, the air could shoot out, but of course you understand right away that the flour would go with it. And the flour is shot in here and starts going around in a circle. It finds its way into this little slot right here under the cup, and then goes in the cup and starts a circle, a cyclone, which makes the flour swing and catch on the walls of this measuring cup. So it allows then the air, mostly devoid of flour, to go up through this final stage of filtration and clean it to enter your room. So there's no flour in your room, but you get all the air back out. About 20 cup capacity with this unit. The way they've designed this mill is if you'll fill this hopper about level, put your lid on. This is the only mill we have that you can actually run with the lid on. There are a lot of grain mills out on the market right now. The greatest thing, if I were to talk about the virtues of this mill, is the 1-to-1 ratio that we talked about already. You fill it once and you're done. Some of these other mills, you'll fill them up. As soon as it runs out, it goes really, really, really loud, and you have to race in and get wheat in there. You kind of have to babysit them, yeah. The other thing that is unique about this mill is that it's got a drawer you pull out, which is really, really handy. The other mills where you've got to either pull a motor off a pan, and then you've got the final mill, which is a tube that sticks in the side of another mill. So you have two kind of parts, and they're still separate and still take up a little bit of room, whereas this device is all in one.
I keep this just on my kitchen counter because it's so slender. You know, you've got room going up. And so I just keep it out on my counter all the time because it doesn't take up that much space. Which,
yeah, I think it's great. Then you're tempted always to use them. They've got two dials on the front where no mill really has that. They all just have one that controls just air going in or coming out. With the Nutrimill, they created a rheostat. And what this little top dial does is really change the RPM of the motor about 200. They found if they could slow the motor just enough, they could get kind of a cream of wheat, a cornmeal, kind of a really fine cracked grain. Also unique to this mill is that they have a lifetime guarantee. They've been marvelous. I get calls all over the United States and Canada who will say, "Oh, it's L'Equip, great. They're amazing when it comes to warranty." So I think you'll love the service you'll get with this mill as well. This is our grain display kit, and you can buy these if you want, you know, just to show people. It is interesting to me that when you purchase a whole grain wheat berry, which is what the wheat is called when it's in this shape right here, there's 26 vitamins and minerals, and you have the germ oil, and all the B complex vitamins all inside of here. And there's 7 layers of bran around it. So when you break this down, you have this vial right here, which is the bran, this one right here, which is the middlings, which is the inside layers. Then you have the germ and the germ oil. And in these 4 vials, 93% of the nutrients of the grain are contained in there. When you buy grocery store flour, you get this, which is endosperm. It's the very center of a kernel of wheat, and there's really nothing in it. Now they started in 1910 when the steel mill started creating mass-producing flour for us that would store, you know, a long time on our shelf. They eliminated these, and there was an uproar because there were so many people getting sick. And so the milling companies artificially added riboflavin, niacin, and thiamine, which are B complex vitamins, back into the flour. Even though they're synthetic, they're still there. And they added one mineral, which is iron, and they put them back in the white flour. Now, today, I noticed they've added folic acid back in, which is in the original grain. because of the controversy over birth defects from the lack of folic acid, right? When you take this whole kernel and you put it into a milling device and you turn it into flour, you're going to have all 26 vitamins and minerals and all the fiber. This fiber is unique because it cleans the digestive system. So physiologically, we're supposed to be able to consume and 24 hours later eliminate. And in America, that's becoming less and less the way. They're saying now that in Western society that we're eliminating about 90 hours after we consume, which is scary. So we need to increase the fiber in our diets, and I think a grain mill is a terrific way to do that in addition to fibers and that sort of thing. Right. I didn't mean to get to potty talk, but sometimes you just have to say it. You have to talk about that with me, though, unfortunately. Right. If we could make our muffins and our rolls and our pancakes, our breads out of whole grain and mill the flour fresh, then we have all those nutrients and all the fiber. So Nutrimill also has this that you may not have noticed, Crystal, before, but they have this little dial right here you can push in and turn, and it pops out, and you can lift what they call the motor module off so that you could clean this area up a little easier, put it in water, whatever you want. So that little module comes off just to make it a little easier to clean so you can separate it, okay? It also is really handy to use the new attachment they have now called the bagger, which you take this module off and set it on top of a 5-gallon bucket with their little devices, and it will fill a bag with the flour instead of filling it into a canister. Okay, I'm going to quickly grind a little bit of wheat in here for you, and then we'll do some cornmeal in a minute, just to see what that's like. When I instruct customers to use this mill, I always suggest they run this dial at about 1 o'clock, noon or 1 o'clock, straight up or just a little bit to the side there. The top one on the highest setting, which is going to be full counterclockwise. And that's the fastest setting. Clockwise, clear to here, will be the slower motor running, okay? So I'm going to set this up at about this setting, about right there, about 1 o'clock. Now this is on a fine grind and it's still going through fairly quickly. If we cover it up, it's going to be a little quiet. We can take the little drawer out right here. I tap it so the flour falls down from static. But what I want you to see in this flour, I'm going to put it out there so we can see it clearly. You'll see kind of the brandy stuff right here where it's a little teeny bit coarser. And then right here it's just silk, silk, silk fine. Do you see how fine that is?
And I have to say, I grind wheat when my kids are sleeping.
Wow.
With this. Unlike other wheat grinders where it sounds like there's a jet going on in your kitchen, this I can do when the kids are asleep, or even if they're in the kitchen, I can still hear what they need. Which to me was huge. If you're going to use it every day, it's hard to do it if you have to do it only during certain times.
Exactly. That's critical because most mills are really quite loud. The other thing that I was going to mention, Crystal got hers about 2, 3, 4 months ago or something. I can't remember how long ago, but within the last few months, they've now done a new, quieter design. They've gone ahead and created this shield device inside that's eliminated to half the original noise, so it's even quieter now than it was then, which is really, really great. Okay, but they are very, very quiet. So now if we were to make a coarser flour, I'm going to use her here, right? I'm going to set that in. It is kind of handy to have two of these. Most people don't, but it is kind of cool. You can just pull it out and drop it in there. And we want to just grab some popcorn and show some cornmeal, okay? So we're going to put this in. The other thing about this grain mill, of course, is there are some electric mills out there that don't allow you to fill it in and then turn it on. You have to have it on and then pour the grain in. This mill will allow you to turn off and on whenever you'd like.
Let me ask you this really quick.
Okay.
So this is also self-cleaning in the sense that you let it run for 15
few seconds
or something after all the grain has gone through, and then it cleans the inside motors. Yeah,
I'm glad you said that, Crystal, because I have a set of the milling heads here. This is what they call the rotor, so this is bolted to the armature of the motor and spins. This is the stator, so it doesn't turn. And as you look in these, they've got little rows of fingers, and when that's placed inside here and balanced 100%, so there's no metal-to-metal contact. There's not one piece of tooth reaching over and touching another tooth here, and there's no sharpness. These are dull. There's nothing that's sharp in here. The concept is the grain falls through this opening here, goes into the center, and then it's these series of fingers just blow it apart by impact, and it shoots it out this little opening, which goes through that little tube that I showed you in the, which hooks up right to here. You see that right there? So it just butts up right there. So in regard to what Crystal asked, is it self-cleaning? These milling heads turning at 30,000 RPM are self-cleaning and self-cooling. So you could literally run this thing 10, 15 bags at a time of grain, and it'll just grind and grind and grind and grind. And because they're surgical stainless, they just don't seem to wear down. Yeah. I've had mills in here that I've repaired that were original Magic Mill 2s, which I sold for, they've had them 20, 25 years, and the fingers look exactly the same, no wear at all. So these are wonderful. So it is self-cooling and self-cleaning. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to turn this to the coarsest, which is going to be clockwise as far as it goes, and then I'm going to take this one also clockwise as far as it goes, right? Can you see it all right in there? Probably so, right there. Okay, here we go. I want to make it as coarse as it can go, so I want to keep the grain going in.
Are you going to cut your fingers doing that?
No, they've got a shield in there that makes it so you can't get fingers in there. I like to keep the grain going around like that because the slower you can get the mill to run, the better.
Oh, look
okay,
at that.
This is really fairly. It's about perfect for cornmeal on that setting right there. Do you see that?
So if you were to put wheat in, and you say it makes like cream of wheat.
Yeah, like cream wheat, like a mush, and you'd cook it the same way. Usually 2 parts water, 1 part grain, and a pinch of salt. And I usually have the water boiling, the same as when you do oatmeal. If you have the water pre-boiling and then add the grains, it doesn't make that sticky, gluey kind of effect. It'll be really good.
Things I learned talking to you.
It's good. It's good. I did for a while do oatmeal where I'd put milk in and get it boiling and add the oats still, and it still makes it so it's not gluey at all, and it makes it really palatable, I guess I should say. Any other questions you have, Crystal, if you had this that you'd want to know about?
What about if you're gluten-free? What grains?
So if you could do a brown rice where you get all the germ oil, just because all these grains have the germ oil and the nutritive value, if you could get that and mill it yourself, you'd have that advantage. We do brown rice and white rice in this mill all the time at home, and Bosch also offers now a new sifter where you could take that rice and make it super fine instead of sort of sandy, because rice seems to be sandy. This little device hooks on top of your Bosch mixer, has a little brush that goes around, and they call it a 70 mesh product here, so it's very, very fine. I did rice in here, and it was amazing. It made it really, 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 really fine.
The only other thing I wanted to add when you were saying that you can just keep putting the grain in, with the flour bag, because I've had actual other wheat grinders turn off. Like before I had my baby, I was trying to grind a bunch of wheat so I could stick it in the freezer.
Oh, and still
I didn't want to have to grind a wheat with the baby sleeping. And it just turned off mid.
Just shut off.
Just shut off.
Oh my word.
And then I had to wait, I don't know how long, before I could turn it back on. So that's another nice thing. I think once you start grinding a lot of things and you're doing a lot of it, this is like...
It'll just keep going and going and going. Yeah, they're really, really amazing. Wonderful mills. Lifetime guarantee called the Nutrimill by L'Equip.
Yes.
And that's all.
If you have other questions, maybe about a Bosch or something, I've also done other videos with Bob where he shows you where you can shred chicken in a Bosch, how you can make mashed potatoes. That's something people think you can't do. How to use a Bosch without the cookie paddles to make the cookies. And also, we did a little mini bread class, Bob and I, on his favorite bread to do in a Bosch. So if you have questions about that, you can also visit my blog, www.everydayfoodstorage.net, and check those out as well.
Perfect. She does really good ones.
There, so that way we can
let's do that. We need to. Yeah, we have to do that every time if we can remember. I'm glad you remembered that.